Elon Musk calling out Congress for voting to pass the president that tax and spending bill. On X, he wrote, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination." Joining us now, Strategas Head of Policy Research, Dan Clifton. Dan, it's good to see you. In the same breath, he whines. There's no change to tax incentives for oil and gas, just EV solar. Slashing solar energy credits is unjust. If he had just stopped at the abomination part, it would have been so much better and so much cleaner and so much more genuine. And I agree with everything. I don't know if we need the tax on tips. I don't know if we need the salt cap. I'd like to cut a lot more spending. But for him to say it and then say, but don't cut my pork, it to me just reeks of self-interest.
Well, I would agree with you, Joe. Good morning. And this is a very important tax bill that's coming through. If Congress doesn't pass this tax bill, you're going to have a $400 billion tax increase on middle-class families on January 1st. So getting this bill done is important, and he's throwing in roadblocks, really going for the kill shot here in the Senate and try and derail it. And I think what's interesting about what you're saying is that this morning, the fiscal hawks who demanded those renewable energy changes are holding up Musk's argument, saying we need more spending cuts, not realizing that Musk is really just trying to push for changes to the renewable energy provisions. I don't want to say that people's intentions aren't good. Our deficit is a problem. But when you look at what we're doing in totality here, we're taking tax cuts that were already in place, we're extending them. We have about $1.5 trillion of offsets, and the president just put in place $2 trillion over 10 years of tariffs. I actually think we're moving into net austerity here. It's not moving the deficit down quick enough. But clearly, if we're unhappy with these smaller changes, it's going to get a lot more painful as we got to deal with these larger deficit issues in the future years.
Yeah, it almost looks like he is trying to scuttle the bill itself, which, as you say, you do scuttle. If you did totally scuttle it, it's you said $400 billion. It's $4.5 trillion over 10 years for tax hikes. And there is $1.5 trillion in spending cuts. You know, Reagan said, the good versus the perfect, and if I can get 80%, I even admit this is nowhere near 80% of what Republicans want, but maybe it's 55%. To scuttle the whole thing is not good, and he wasn't even gone a week.
Well, I don't think he'll be successful in this. I don't think failure is an option here for the Republicans. But when I take a look at it, I mean, the reforms that they do to the student lending program in this bill by getting rid of all these junk programs with high default rates and being able to get in serious reforms to finally start to slow the growth down of some of these Medicaid after 20-plus year spending increases annually. It is not a perfect bill in any sense, but there's no surprises here. The president campaigned on no tax on tips. That's not my preferred way of doing this, but he got 75 million votes. The rest of us got 0. So the president's going to do what he wants to do. He's going to extend the tax cuts. And where the short-term deficit increase comes from is by providing incentives to increase onshoring here in the United States. We're going to have a factory building boom here, Joe, because this bill allows for factories to be fully expensed right at the beginning. It's like shoot anything that flies, claim anything that falls. There is a bit of seriousness of thought that's gone into this bill. And I just think that there's a larger story here, and we fully haven't uncovered the breakup between Trump and Musk at its fullest lengths here.
Hey, Dan, I don't think that that Musk is going to get his EV tax credits reinstated or the solar tax credits reinstated, but he is giving some heft to the budget hawks, the deficit hawks at this point. And I think there will probably be some changes that have to be made in the bill as a result. Does that mean SALT goes away? Does that mean some of the other stuff around the edges goes away? Does it mean that there is a higher tax rate on the wealthiest Americans that goes through as a result? Because that's something that President Trump liked before. He couldn't get that passed. If there's something that has to change, where does that happen?
Yeah, the bill is going to change somewhat in the Senate. And I would expect some of the renewable energy provisions in the House, which were pretty tough, are going to get loosened up a bit. Musk is very focused on this kind of
The answer is they're going to spend more when he complains about the deficit?
I'm just giving you kind of where you got to increase spending on one side, but they will cut the $40,000 SAL. It will probably end up closer to $30,000, not the $40,000 that went into the House. They're probably going to get rid of the remittance tax. That's something that is in the bill. They're probably going to have to change a portion of Section 899. So these changes are going to be all on the margin, Becky. I don't expect a larger spending reduction on net. I don't expect a larger spending increase on net, but it is going to be on the margins. And you got to find 51 votes in the Senate. You got to figure out how you're going to get there. And it's going to require some tweaks and adjustments. And then you got to go back to the House, which has a very fragile equilibrium with just a 3-seat majority. So the changes here aren't going to be widespread. We're just throwing new roadblocks in with these arguments, and it's making it tougher to get the bill through before July 4th. We
got Senator Ron Johnson on. I wish we could, have Senator Susan Collins on at the same time, because those are the two. Those are the two polls in the Senate, and I don't know what gets a yes from both. I don't know how you get there.
Yeah, again, I think what you have to do here is say, does everybody want the tax cuts extended? And the answer is yes.
Right.
Then you got to say, okay, what do we got to do to make that bill palatable for both polls? And there's going to be one or two issues for everybody, and you just got to figure out where that is. What they did in the House was so much harder than what they were going to do in the Senate. I mean, the difference between Tom Kaine and Chip Roy, and they came together and they voted for a bill 2 weeks ago. So I do think that you will get a bill in the Senate. Joe, as you know, this is not linear. It's going to have its ups and downs. And I think the real surprise is if they can get this done by July 4th, begin to sterilize the impact of those tariffs and get the uncertainty of whether these tax cuts are going to expire out of the way, I think it's positive for the U.S. economy overall.
Interesting. The numbers so far look positive, and suddenly the market's back. So, maybe the worst case scenario never does play out, Dan, but we like a lot of hand-wringing and pearl-clutching on news shows.
It makes for good stories. But the larger issue is that we're going to have to get the deficit down at some point. If we're not getting it from growth, we got to do it through austerity. And this is showing us how difficult that process is going to be.